Welcome, guys. We're back with draft duel number 2, and we're starting with Herman's turn. He sets a monster and 2 back row, and he passes it back to me. And on my turn, I start with Mech Knight Avram and attack over Herman's face down set, and the face down set ends up being a Devouring Sarcophagus, and he uses the effect to take control of the Avram. So on his turn, he sets it to defense position and passes it back to me, and this is the first misplay that I make. Because I have Kaiku on the field, it actually circumvents the Devouring Sarcophagus' effect in the grave, because he has to banish itself from the graveyard to activate its effect again. But because I have Kaiku prevents it from banishing the graveyard, so I didn't put 2 and 2 together, and I should have just attacked into it and not faced any consequences. So I just used the Extermination to banish a set card, and I waste my Ring of Destruction on the Avram, and none of us take damage since it has 0 attack. And because his field is clear, I attack directly with Kaiku, but he chains Scapegoat to get 4 tokens. So I just attack over a token and pass it back to him. So yeah, that was a misplay on my part. I could have just beaten over the Avram and not have any issues. Herman sets a card and passes it back to me. And I continue with a Lila. And with both my Kaiku and my Lila, I attempt to attack over some tokens, but Herman responds with a Gladiator Beast Nauseous, and he also chains Malevolent Catastrophe to destroy my Imperial Order. And when the Nauseous is special summoned to the field, it can't be destroyed by battle. So I just use my Kaiku to attack into a token, and during the end phase, my Lila mills a Noodle Inversion, Memory of an Adversary, and Nobleman of Crossout. During Herman's turn, he activates Tribute to a Doom, discarding a Redox to destroy my Kaiku, since it seems like it stops a lot of his plays. And on my turn, I use Angel of Blue Tears to negate the effects of Gladiator Beast Nauseous, but when I attempt to attack over it, Herman responds with Nightmare Wheel. So during the end phase, I mill Cupid Volley, Giant Orc, and Neo the Magical Swordsman with Lila, and I pass it back. And I also take 500 burn damage due to the Nightmare Wheel. But on my turn, I banish a Spellcaster, Fairy, and Fiend to special summon Arch Nemesis Ikiados, and I declare Beast Warrior to get rid of the Nauseous. Then I normal summon a DD Survivor and attack into 2 tokens with my Eshiados and DD Survivor. And during the end phase, I'm going to mill a Dark Hole, Snatch Steel, and Soul of Purity and Light, and with that I just pass it back to Herman. And I take another 500 damage from Nightmare Wheel. Herman just sets a monster and passes it back to me. Since the Lila isn't doing much and just taking up space on my field, I use it as tribute fodder to summon Reptilian Medusa and proceed to the battle phase. So I use my Arch Nemesis to attack over his face down monster, which is revealed to be an Amaryllis, and I attack directly for 2200 and 1800 respectively and pass it back to Herman. On his turn, he summons Goblin Attack Force and activates Change of Heart to take control of my Arch Nemesis monster, and he declares Reptile, which gets rid of my Medusa. Then he beats over my DD Survivor with Goblin Attack Force, dealing 400 damage, and then attacks directly with my Echiados, but it does go back to me in the end phase. And with that, he just passes it back to me. But yeah, the Arch Nemesis monster makes it really easy to control the flow of the duel, and on my turn, I just summon Spirit Reaper and use it to attack over the Goblin Attack Force, which leaves his field open and lets me attack for game with the Arch Nemesis monster. And with that, I finally win the first round of a match. It's funny that it took me a few matches to finally get one. So yeah, luckily that first misplay that I did in the last round didn't cost me the game. And because I lost, Herman decides to go first, and he opens with a painful choice. So yeah, there are 2 painful choices in the draft, and Herman happens to get access to the other one, and he uses it to get Shadal Beast, Bitron, Redox, Ancient Gear Golem, and Antilion. And I decide to give him a Shadal Beast to prevent him from getting a draw, so he just adds it to his hand. And then he decides to set a monster, and 1 back row, and passes it back to me. Overall, not a bad start. On my turn, I used Nobleman of Extermination to get rid of his back row, which ends up being revealed to be a Solemn Strike. Then I used Shield Crush to get rid of his face down monster, which ends up being an Earthbound Spirit. And then I just set 1 back row and pass it back, because I don't really have much to follow up with that. It ends up not mattering since he gets rid of my Karma Cut with a Mystical Space Typhoon. Then he proceeds by setting a monster and passes it back to me. On my turn, I summon Donzalug and I set one back row and pass it back to Herman. So overall, pretty slow start for both of us. He responds with Warrock Wento, and when he attempts to attack into my Donzalug, I respond with Unbreakable Spirit during the damage step, which boosts up my Donzalug to 3300 attack, and I use the Donzalug to discard a card from Herman's hand, but it ends up being the Shadal Beast that I gave him to his hand earlier. So yeah, out of all the cards to discard, I ended up discarding that. On his turn, he banishes 2 Earth monsters to special summon Redox in defense position. Then he sets 1 monster and 1 back row and passes it back to me. I'm not sure why he's building up his defenses since the game is going pretty slow, but I digress. I just set 1 back row and put my Donzalug in defense position, passing it back to him. Herman activates Change of Heart during his turn, but rather than attack directly to utilize its effect, he uses it as tribute fodder for Dark Triceratops and deals 24 direct damage to my life points. On my turn, I try to take control of it with Snatch Steal, but he responds with Book of Moon, which forces my Snatch Steal to fizzle. This kind of reminds me of GOAT format. And with no additional follow-up, I pass it back to Herman. On his turn, he pays 800 life points for Premature Burial, which resolves his Shadal Beast, and flip summons Dark Triceratops. I do try to fight back with Paleozoic Dynamiscus, discarding my Chaos Sorcerer from my hand so I can banish it, in an attempt to not take so much damage. On my turn I draw, but I don't have any plays, so I pass it back to Herman, who draws another Premature Burial and summons Antilion. Since my field is clear, he's just able to attack for game. So yeah, a pretty rough round 2. Had a pretty slow start, but eventually I think Herman was able to outgrind me and develop more advantage. Since I lost, I decided to go first. I start by setting 1 front row and 1 back row, passing it back to Herman. And he decides to do the same. He sets 1 more back row and passes it back to me. On my turn, I draw, and I summon Neo the Magical Swordsman, and attempt to attack over his face down monster, and it's revealed to be Marinsa's Balisama, which deals 400 points of defense damage. Then he summons Warrock Wento, and attacks over my Neo, dealing some damage. On my turn, I summon Cyber Valley and pass it back to Herman. He decides to use Book of Moon on my Cyber Valley, which sets it. Then he normal summons an Armed Dragon and moves into the battle phase. During the battle phase, he attacks over my Cyber Valley with the Armed Dragon and attacks over my face down with Wento, but it's revealed to be a Spirit Reaper which can't be destroyed by battle. On my turn, I summon Lila and use her effect to put herself face down and destroy his face down monster, which is revealed to be Skill Successor. Then during the end phase, I mill a Kaiku, Snatch Steal, and Dark Hole. Those cards seem to be together these past few games. He attacks over my Lila with one of his monsters and passes it back to me, and on my turn, I decide to go on the offensive. I use my Spirit Reaper to tribute something for Reptilian Medusa. Then I discard a card to reduce his Warrock Wento's attack to 0. Then I banish 1 light and 1 dark monster to special summon Chaos Sorcerer, and I use its effect to banish his Balisama. Then I banish 1 zombie, warrior, and spellcaster from the graveyard to summon Arch Nemesis Ekiatos, and I use its effect to destroy all dragons in the field, which gets rid of his armed dragon, and I proceed to the battle phase. I declare an attack with my Ekiatos, but he responds with Malevolent Catastrophe, which destroys my set Solemn Judgment, but my attack still goes through, and I deal some damage, and then I attack directly with my Reptilian Medusa. And during main phase 2, I equip my Chaos Sorcerer with Rocket Powder to protect it from battle, and pass it back to Herman, who top decks a Devouring Sarcophagus. During the battle phase, he activates the Skill Successor in the grave to boost his Devouring Sarcophagus by 800 attack in an attempt to reduce the damage he takes from attacking into my Reptilian Medusa, but he does do an illegal play since he takes control of my Chaos Sorcerer. Devouring Sarcophagus only takes control of the monster that destroyed it by battle, so he could have attacked into my Arch Nemesis monster and used the Arch Nemesis effect to declare Spellcaster and get rid of my Chaos Sorcerer, as well as using it to stall since he still had the Devouring Sarcophagus in the grave, which would have forced me to attack into the Arch Nemesis with my Reptilian meaning I had to give up my field presence so that he wouldn't have any Gyarados, but it ends up not mattering. He ends up getting his Dragon Engine on board and overwhelms my field and attacks for game. So yeah guys, thanks again for watching. I did not expect the outcome for that last game. That was kind of crazy. Hopefully I'll see you guys soon. Thanks again.